안녕하세요. 크립토 인사이트 진행을 맡은 김세영입니다. 비트코인은 지금 11만 달러 박스권에서 머물면서 이 9월 약세 통계를 의식하며 숨고르기를 이어가고 있습니다. ETF 자금은 비트코인은 9월 3일 기준 3억 달러가 넘게 비트코인에 순유입됐고 이더리움이 1억 3천만 달러가량의 순유출을 보이면서 리밸런싱이 확인되었습니다. 과연 크립토 시장에도 9월의 약세, 9월의 저주가 올해도 이어질지 오늘 크립토 인사이트와 함께 확인하시죠. 최근 전 세계적으로 AI 규제, 데이터 권리, 투명성에 대한 논의가 활발하게 이어지고 있습니다. 이 과정에서 AI는 더 이상 블랙박스가 되어서는 안 된다는 목소리도 커지고 있습니다. 바로 이런 문제의식 속에서 주목받고 있는 프로젝트가 있는데요. 바로 오픈 레저입니다. 람 크루마 공동 창업자와 어떤 비전과 차별성을 가지고 있는지 오늘 함께 이야기 나눠보겠습니다. 램에 대한 소개를 먼저 들어보도록 하겠습니다. So can you share a bit about your personal journey, how you first got involved in blockchain and machine learning, the enterprises you've worked with along the way, and what ultimately inspired you to start OpenLedger?
I'm Ram. I'm one of the core contributors here at OpenLedger. I started this space quite a while back, building in the technology space. I've been building in the blockchain and machine learning space from 2017. We started more as an R&D. Everyone was launching projects, ICOs, and we knew that there is a need for technology here, right? There is a need for someone to build the tech side of things, and that's how we started. And then from 2017 till 2022, we've been working with various enterprises. This includes Walmart, Cadbury, Sony, and many other enterprises as well. And what we understood is that what we're essentially building, right? Even though we've had 200 plus employees, we have more than $40 million plus revenue. We understood that's not a product that is really scalable, right? We wanted to build a product that is for the masses, that is for a larger ecosystem. And that's when ChatGPT was happening. That's when Meta's Llama came about. Everyone was experimenting with AI. And we thought, okay, AI is going to become big. AI is going to be used in every other sector. Why don't we build a protocol that can solve this big data problem, big model need that's going to come in next 2 years, right? And that's how OpenLedger came about. I've been working on this over the last 2 years along with my team. And we've been backed by prominent investors like Polychain Capital, Borderless Capital, and many other investors as well. We've raised more than 15-20 million, and we've worked with more than about 20 plus projects that are building on us. And we have enterprises again that we work with as well, which includes Walmart, and we also recently signed up with Trust Wallet. We're signing up with another larger ecosystem in this space, and we'll be announcing about that soon. So we have close to about 6 to 7 enterprises that we work with. We work with 20 plus projects that are building on us, raised more than about $20 million. So it's been quite a journey in the last 2 years.
오픈레저는 스스로를 AI를 위한 블록체인이라고 소개를 하고 있는데요. 이는 구체적으로 어떤 의미이고 또 다른 AI 또는 블록체인 프로젝트와는 어떤 차별성이 있는지 첫 질문으로 드려보겠습니다. So what does it mean when OpenLedger calls itself a blockchain for AI? And how does it differentiate itself from other AI or blockchain projects?
So OpenLedger is an AI blockchain that enables users, model developers, to use our protocol to collect data and build AI models. Most of the blockchains out there, right, they're built for DeFi or any kinds of on-chain transactions. So it's built for finance, but it's not built for AI. For AI, there are 3 major components. One is data. Another one is the model itself, the algorithm. And then the third is the compute, right? The GPU that we use to power all of this. And compute is a resource problem. A lot of people have solved that. But the biggest issue right now is data and models, right? We are providing a solution where users can collect data on chain and then use that to train models and have rewards passed back to the users that provided this data. So this is a very essential aspect of how to make sure that AI can be scalable. More and more AI gets into very unique use cases, the more need for data, right? 2 years back when ChatGPT came, we understood that okay, it's not going to start with ChatGPT, it's going to expand on to various other use cases. ChatGPT will be sort of like an OS, as in like it could be Llama or any larger models out there. They typically open source or closed source could be like an operating system out there, right? It could be like the plane on which we're going to build on something, right? So it's going to be the bottom layer. But for AI to be used in real world use cases, you need to customize this model to your own need. You need to make these models specialized. If you want to make these models, let's say, specialized for a use case like trading, or for a particular language, or for a particular skill set, let's say hospitality and stuff like that, you need to collect data sets related to that particular department and that particular skill set, and then train the model with that, right? So that's typically what we provide. We enable this to happen in a much more easier way. It's a trustless protocol where users can contribute data to make AI specialized to the category they're building for, and we use our network to collect all of this data and have the data's hash on chain, and then train these AI models with the data that is collected. This could be basically knowledge or information that they can collect, and add information to this AI model, make it specialized, make it more enriched with the data that was collected, and then use attribution, figure out which data caused the biggest impact on that model that was trained, and then use attribution to reward back to them, reward the people who actually contributed this data, and make sure that they are part of this process. Most of the AI models today that we see, right, is trained on internet data that you find on internet, which is scraped. There is no one rewarded in the process. Us as users, whatever data that we contributed to the internet, we all never get rewarded for that, right? So what we're doing here is basically flipping that. If we contribute any kind of knowledge, if you make these AI much more enriched, you're going to pay it, you're going to get rewarded for it. So that's essentially what we're solving. In order to achieve this, we wanted to make sure that we can build a blockchain that is purpose built for this, that is built for this particular use case, and that's how OpenLedger came about. I think like what we are solving today is for AI models is to build more unique AI. As AI expands into various other use cases, we will also expand along with that.
네, 오픈레저는 이러한 신뢰성 문제를 어떻게 해결할지도 여쭤보겠습니다. So how does OpenLedger's proof of attributions address AI reliability issues such as false data, hallucinations, and unverifiable outputs?
Yeah, so if you take a look at AI, right, most of the AI models that you see today is a black box. You really don't know what's happening inside. What we're essentially trying to solve here is to make this black box sort of like a glass box, right? Make it much more transparent and open. And how to do that? The best way to do that is to make sure that we bring transparency on chain, to show provenance on chain. And that's essentially what we're doing. We want to make sure that anyone who builds an AI model, we show transparency of whether your data was used inside the model. And when the data has been consumed by users, we show transparency whether your data had any impact on the user's answer that they got. And if the model gets paid, if there is a revenue that the model makes, we want to make sure that people who contributed to that, the data contributors, get rewarded as part of the process. If we actually take a look at it, right, close to about $500 billion worth of data has been taken away from us till now, and we never got paid, right? This happened when OpenAI was being built. This happened when Llama and all these larger models were being built, because they simply took internet data, and let's call internet data to be valued $10 trillion. And out of that, let's say even like 5% of that was used to train AI models. We've been lost more than about $500 billion, right? So the idea behind this is to make sure that let's not lose more as AI gets into various different use cases. How can the common man, how can an enterprise be part of an AI that's being built for various different use cases? The best way is to contribute something to this AI. And AI today needs data, and there is no platform out there that connects these data contributors and model developers together. And there is no platform out there that provides this transparency, right? That makes this black box a much more open. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're being that ledger, which is open, which enables users to contribute data and build models using the data that is contributed, and then reward them back. That is very essential to make this a much more transparent layer, and to make sure that this is a much more collaborative process. Right today, AI is a one-way street. Most other AI companies out there, they're just been scraping stuff and then building it for themselves, and they never reward the common people out there. What we're essentially trying to solve here, now there is a need for data. How can we have common people and enterprises come forward, contribute to that, and get rewarded? And that's how we are solving this black box problem and the transparency in the AI space right now.
네, 지금 생태계에서 이미 가동 중인 건 무엇이고 메인넷 출시 이전에 사용자들이 어떤 방식으로 이를 활용하고 있는지 들어볼게요. So what components of the OpenLedger ecosystem are already operational, and how are users engaging with them ahead of the mainnet launch?
A lot of stuff. So we've been building this over the last 2 years. So there's a lot of sweat and blood that has gone into this. It started as a Stanford research, right? And over the last 2 years, the product has been built from a research paper to an actual working product. And we have close to about 20 projects building on this one, and the 7+ enterprises that I spoke about. The product lets you basically build your own AI model. You can launch your own AI. And the best part of this is that it's a no-code platform. Anyone who gets to have an idea that, okay, I want to build an AI for Korean language, or I want to build an AI for Solidity, which is an Ethereum programming language, or I want to build an AI for trading purpose. You could go ahead, spin up a contract, ask people to contribute data for that, choose our model building platform, build an AI with the data that you collected, and just launch that model. You're basically launching a quick version of ChatGPT in few minutes using OpenLedger. And that product is going live with our mainnet, and it's been in development over the last 2 years. And we have more than about 1 million data contributors who've been contributing data to that. And that's what is going live as you go mainnet as well. So we're quite excited about it. And we have this product being used by larger enterprises also, as I told you. Walmart uses this product. We have Trust Wallet using this product. So it's a product that's been tested by the enterprises. It's the product that's been tested by the community as well. And we're finally going mainnet with that.
네, 그리고 다가오는 토큰 발행 행사 TGE는 중요한 이정표로 평가되고 있습니다. 이 토큰은 데이터, 모델, 그리고 AI 기여 전반에서 실제로 어떻게 사용될 예정일지도 들어볼게요. The upcoming token generation event is considered a major milestone. How will the token actually be used across data, models, and AI contributions?
Yeah. So token is a very important part to our launch, right? As an ecosystem, see, Bitcoin solved the problem of money, right? It's decentralized money. Ethereum solved the problem of finance. It's decentralized finance. What we're essentially trying to solve is a problem of intelligence. There is intelligence which is going to become abundance. We want to decentralize that intelligence so everyone can get access to that. And the best way to do that is to build an economy around that. Open Token is our AI economy, which is going to enable people to get rewarded as part of being AI. So it has multiple utilities. Using the token, you can basically build an AI model. You can pay our token as a fees to build AI model. As users contribute data, they use our token to participate in the network as a gas fees. And then the best part over here is that our token is given as a reward to the data contributors. And what's unique about this is that every time someone gets rewarded, they can check on chain why they're getting rewarded. So the attribution is based on how the model gets paid for, and then you get paid a portion out of that. And we could have not done this with any traditional fiat currency, right? If you take a look at it, a traditional currency, you can't use that to reward people across the globe. If someone wants to build a model sitting in Korea and having data contributors in US, in Europe, in Lagos to contribute this data set, you cannot simply do that by using fiat. You can't reward in fiat for that. We wanted to essentially solve that problem. We want to build this universal economy layer where anyone who's contributing AI gets rewarded for it, gets paid for it, right? So that's essentially what we have solved here. OpenLedger, think of it to be the token that's going to enable users to get paid for being part of an AI revolution that's about to happen. And the best way is to own that token, to own and be a part of that. And we want to essentially now use it for model development. Then we would expand down to other use cases in AI as well. What you're essentially building is, think of the flops in NVIDIA, right? So more and more flops, more and more usage that is there, more and more value that NVIDIA or any kind of compute company generates. More and more usage of open token, more and more consumption of open token. You're essentially being part of a larger decentralized AI economy that's being built. And once we kind of like get to a point where people are having a larger portion of our AI token, there's a large ecosystem built. We want to enable people to come and contribute and stake on our network as well and get rewarded for it. That's a larger use case where we're building governance around that, right? People using tokens can be part of the network, govern the network, and own the network themselves. So what we're essentially building here is an intelligence economy. Anyone who is part of this intelligence, anyone who's contributing to this intelligence, get rewarded and get paid for it.
대형 모델 학습에는 막대한 비용이 필요해서 AI 개발은 점점 더 고비용화되고 있습니다. 오픈레저는 중소규모 팀들이 보다 저렴하고 접근성 있게 AI를 개발할 수 있도록 어떤 지원을 제공하는지도 들어볼게요. Training large-scale models requires massive costs, making AI development increasingly expensive. So how does OpenLedger support small and mid-sized teams in building AI more affordably and accessibly?
That's essentially what we're building, right? The reason why, the collateral damage that happens out of this, people get rewarded, is that you're also subsidizing the access to data, right? You're also subsidizing the access to build AI models. If you take a look at decentralized compute companies, they subsidize the access to GPUs as a resource. When we initially built, we used to use AWS as a GPU provider, and we used to pay about $7 per hour, right? And then we switched to a decentralized compute provider, and then we paid like $1 per hour. And what essentially OpenLedger is trying to solve is that model developers pay so much to get access to data. Model developers usually, even if they pay a lot, they usually get very cheap data and not so useful, right? Even like if you take a look at open source solutions like Hugging Face and all that, the data over there is absolute useless, right? 90% of the data is useless. So what we're essentially trying to solve is access to data, the abundance of data, and then access to data at a much lower cost. You're not paying anything upfront. You're accessing this data, building AI models with that, and then you reward if the data was useful. So essentially, the cost to build an AI model goes down by, let's say, 60 to 70%, right? The major cost in building an AI model is the GPU cost and the access to data cost. The model itself is open source, so you don't have a problem with that. So what we are essentially trying to solve is these two major costs is being reduced down by partners in the decentralized compute zone. And then we have data which is completely free initially, and then you just pay as you make revenue, right? So the cost to building an AI model is much more lower on us. And we've also built a solution called OpenLoRa to solve the compute problem, right? So if you take a look at a traditional manner, if you build a specialized AI model on top of, let's say, a Llama open source model, you're essentially launching an AI model on a full stack. You're building a model and running your own GPU to manage that. With OpenLedger, with our OpenLoRa framework, you can have 100 different AI models, specialized AI models, run on one single GPU. We have one base model and the specialized, additions on top of it, the adapters on top of it, is added as a layer. It's adapted in real time so that you don't essentially pay for the entire stack. You're paying only for the adapters that you're integrating. So the cost to deploy a model is like 1/10 than a typical solution that is out there. So that's how we want to solve the compute problem. So we are able to cost reduction in terms of the model side by having people collect data, which is abundance, which is no upfront fee. You pay when you get revenue. And then we also provide compute solutions where at a much lower cost by our partners. And then the deployment cost using OpenLoRa is also reduced as well. And I think that's the best way to reduce cost in terms of building an AI model or getting any access to AI model. Centralized solutions, they work for profit. It's built on how they can maximize profit out of a solution. But over here, it's a decentralized network. We're bringing people together. So as you bring people together, you have abundance of resource, and the cost to access this resource is low as well.
Globally, there are active discussions around AI regulation, data rights, and transparency. What role do you see OpenLedger playing in future AI governance and regulatory compliance?
So the biggest issue with AI today, right? Any kind of governance issue is that this AI, as we spoke about, is not transparent. You really don't know what's happening inside. How can you write a law if you don't know how this AI works? That's the biggest problem. Let's just take a look at EU regulations alone. EU regulations are very sensitive about data, right? If, let's say, an AI model has to be used in the healthcare sector, and you typically what you would need to do is basically collect data from patients and collect data from actual scenarios that is happening within your supply chain, and then train your models with that, right? Like you're breaking n number of EU regulations over there. But how can we solve this, right? Even if you collect data, we make sure that the ownership retains with the data owner, right? That is proved on chain. So you can have a track of who owns the data and who is contributing this data. And when this AI model gets trained with the data that's being collected and the model throws an output, we can show on chain how the data that was collected had an impact on the model's output. You can transparently see every data that got into a model, and if a model throws an output, we know which data caused that as well. You can see it on chain with the provenance, like how you would view it on a supply chain. You would be able to see which data that is trained in the model causes answer. You'll be able to see it entirely on chain as well. So now you have a transparency, right? You know who's contributing the data. You can prove the ownership to that. You get to know what data goes into a model. You get to know how this AI model understands this data. And when an output comes in, you get to know which data that is trained to the model that caused that output as well. Now you have an entire track of how this AI model works. Now this model becomes much more transparent and much more auditable. So it is easier for someone to implement any kind of regulation that comes in. Even if there's a question later on, you can go back and actually showcase on a ledger what really happens, right? So that's another thing that we're trying to solve because of the transparency that we are able to provide, because we're able to solve the data attribution problem. We're able to make sure these models are much more open. We're able to make sure these models are much more transparent so that regulations can be managed. You can actually know how these AI models work and you actually implement rules with this. And we actually are working with one government body, which will be announced about soon as well. And this is particularly for their tax regulations. We're building a model that's managing taxes for people. They want to make sure this is completely open and transparent, right? They want to know how this AI works. They want to know what kind of data goes in. And we're building this according to their jurisdiction, according to the framework that they have provided. And if we are able to achieve that, we are able to provide a solution around that which follows the regulation that can be implemented for regions across the globe. I think that will be a standard that we're able to set if that comes out, and we're quite excited about that. So yeah, so it's purpose built for a transparency, and that will just go along with the regulations that is there in the space.
So Korea is one of the fastest growing hubs for AI and blockchain. How significant is the Korean community to the growth of OpenLedger?
Korea is a very exciting community. So we've been very active in Korea. We have a lot of developers who are building in this space, who are concentrating on the AI space, who are building on OpenLedger. Out of the million data contributors, we have a large number of people that are Koreans who are contributing to our network, who are contributing to our node, who are contributing feedback to our AI models that are being built. And we have close to about, I think, about 30 to 40% of the projects that are building on us actually coming from the Asian region and majorly coming from the Korean region as well. We've been quite active, and I think it also comes down to the initiatives by the Korean government. I think there is this mandate that's being set up to build the next way of AI, and we've seen traditionally youngsters and startups in the Korean region be excited about the AI space that is growing, come up with various unique ideas, especially around culture, music, and just knowledge around that region. And we also support very region-specific AI models. So we encourage more and more ideas in specific regions. We recently announced a grant program for Korea as well. We just announced a grant as well, and we'll be providing that to 3 major Korean projects that are going to get launched soon, and we'll be announcing about that soon as well. So we have quite an exciting community there, and we've already seen people building from that, and we're already rewarding them as well. And as we go mainnet, once the product is out, I'm sure that it's going to be much more bigger as well, and we'll continue to do more stuff in Korea. We will be there during Korea Blockchain Week. We're also then doing a large hackathon that will be running across Asia, and Korea is a big part of that. And we would want more and more developers come out of the region. Not only Web3 developers, we would want traditional space developers to access our platform, get to use this, because it's a no-code platform. What happens on the blockchain layer is something which is behind. In the front end, it looks and like any product, right? We want to make sure that we can have as many developers across the globe use this and as many developers from the traditional space and also Web3 place to use this. And we would encourage more and more developers in the Korean ecosystem, either you're in Web3 or Web2, to come forward and start building on us as well.
OpenLedger has also gained strong support from the global community. So why do you think communities worldwide resonate so strongly with your vision?
I think we are solving an essential problem that is there, right? Like a lot of people in the AI space, it's just all about hype. Agent was a hype which just drove on the crypto Twitter community, and I think they really exploited the AI narrative, which we don't want to do. We want to solve an actual problem. We want to solve a problem which is going to take place in the coming years. And building this company is about building it forever, right? At least like I want to see that what can happen in the next 20 years that we can try to solve. So that's the essential motive. So it comes down to the team that is building. It comes down to the purpose you're trying to solve. If your purpose is strong, then you start to build a large community. Everyone would resonate to that. And also what we are building right now is very essential. There is a large need for unique models. There's a large need for data right now. And we are building in that intersection. And that's how we're able to attract a larger community. And we've been constantly building for and in public as well, right? We've been constantly updated about what we're building. We've been providing access to our product. We've been getting constant feedback from the community as well. I think that has enabled a lot of people to participate in us. And as a network itself, we need the community to be part of this, right? We need people to come forward, access our product, build models. We need people to contribute data. We need people to contribute feedback to the model that comes in. We need people to consume these models and use these models as well. So building for the community is essential, and I think that's been our motive from day one as well, and that is reflected, and that's how I believe we have a very strong global community.
Okay, so could you share the roadmap for OpenLedger going forward?
In Q4 of the product, we are launching the entire mainnet. So there are three major phases that is coming out of the product. One is the data contribution side, another one is the model development side, the third is basically the open model, which is where you can access these models. So data contribution, model development, and model access, all of this will go live, right? And after that, we will make sure that we have our agent framework come in. So anyone who's looking to launch like an agent on top of this, they can use our frameworks to deploy and start launching agents as well. And then we will also roll out various use cases. Like we'll have an API and an SDK come out, where anyone who's want to use another framework or building an app, they can just simply call an API or use our SDK to get access to our models, right? That will come out next year as well. And we're also having people build on top of this. We have a team which is building a protocol which will enable you to basically tokenize models and trade them as well. So that's something that is coming out. We have a team which is building a stable coin based on rewards in AI, which is basically a USD AI kind of stable coin that is built on top of our network, which will run on layer 2, where you can basically power all of these models that are being built and pay for them in the stable coin that they're powering, or also use micropayments to reward data contributors or GPU contributors as part of a network. So all of that is rolling out. We will essentially have people who are building on us go mainnet as well. They've been building along with us very closely doing our testnet. So all of them will go mainnet as we go mainnet as well. We'll be announcing more about our enterprises that are going to get launched. We're working with Walmart, so that will officially come in. We're also working with larger ecosystems and enterprises. So Trust Wallet we just announced last week, but we'll have more and more announcements coming in. There's a large electronic giant which is building on us, and we're very proud of that. We'll be announcing about them as well. So more enterprise announcements will also come in.
What kinds of projects, applications, or systems can actually be built on top of the OpenLedger platform? And in what ways can developers, enterprises, or even community participants take advantage of its infrastructure to create value?
So there is essentially the idea behind this is to make sure that AI is specialized. Most of the AI models today are very generic. You can't use them for every different purpose that is there. So for example, if you want to use ChatGPT to power your trading tool, it will work fine, but it's not going to be an expert, right? So the idea behind this, how humans are, we all have general knowledge, then we specialize in a sector and become an expert in that. OpenLedger is essentially doing that for AI. So if someone wants to build an AI for a particular use case, let's say trading, they can collect data and build for that. We have people doing that actually. We have a team which is building an AI model for Solidity, which is an Ethereum programming language. Usually, code generation models understand like top 20, code that is out there, but Solidity is not something that is understood by it. Right? It's not done really well. So someone is building an AI model especially for Solidity. So they could basically think of more type of unique code or programming languages that is out there, build models for that, right? Build for very unique use cases. And then you could also think about like unique language and accents out there, right? Every language has a unique dialect and accents. What if you can build an AI model out of that? How can you make the AI much more human, right? So you can build models for that. And we've seen people who build models for even like use cases like Deepin, right? There's a Deepin company which is building a model which is air quality. There's a team which is building a model for astrology, right? So that's a big use case actually, and they're collecting astrology related data and then building AI models for that. We have a team which is building a unique model on math, which is basically understands much better in terms of math questions than any kind of generic model out there. There's a team which is building a model just for sleep data. It's a healthcare model where you can contribute your sleep data and be part of it. And as a consumer, if you upload your sleep statistics, you would actually be able to figure out how your health is, how your health vitals are. So these are like unique kind of use cases that is there. And we would probably envision more and more unique use cases to come in as we go mainnet as well. People are the best judges of it. If we provide them with a tool, they come up with unique ideas. So there could be like 100 different ideas that can be built on OpenLedger, and some of them which is I just told you during this now.
What would you say is the single most important differentiating factor that sets OpenLedger apart from other AI-focused blockchain projects? And how does it approach or articulate fundamentally distinguish it within the broader Web3 and AI ecosystem?
That's a good question. So the major difference between other blockchains out there, right? I think people are trying to solve different problems. AI has tough problems because it's an emerging technology. What we're essentially solving is the problem in models and the access to data for these models, right? And what is unique about us, right? We are the first guys to crack data attribution and what it means. So when an AI model is trained on tremendous amount of data, let's say 100,000 data points, close to about terabyte of data points, right? An AI model is fine-tuned with that. When a model gives an answer, we figure out in that inference, you ask a question to ChatGPT, you get an answer, right? On that answer, we figure out which data that is trained to the model made sure this answer can happen, which gave an impact to the answer, which is very essential for us to use that to reward the data contributors. So as a data contributor, you get paid if you're valuable, if your data was valuable. So that is essentially what we're trying to solve here, building a protocol that can bring in data contributors, model developers, and use attribution to make sure that people get rewarded for what they demand and what they are worth for. That's the biggest problem, and not many people are solving it. None of us has got rewarded for what's happening in the AI space. At least in the internet, we upload something to the internet, we get views, or we get people visiting our website, or we get paid for it. But in AI, it's a one-way street, right? So we're actually using attribution to solve that one-way street and make sure people get rewarded and be part of that. Another one that really happens out of this attribution is that now we are able to make this model much more transparent. So government bodies, enterprises, if they want to use AI, they want to make sure that they know how this AI works. They have transparency. If a data goes in, they want to know how this data is understood. If an answer comes in, they want to know why they got this answer, right? They can't just rely on an AI just like that. Because if, let's say, there's an answer given which is wrong, and that was caused because there's a malicious data that went in, and that's why that made that answer to go wrong, then you need to track back the malicious data point and then remove that. So in order to achieve that, you need attribution. In order to achieve that, you need to make this model much more transparent. And that is an essential thing that we're solving as well. So that's how we are unique compared to other blockchains out there that are building in the AI space. What we are solving is a very important and a straightforward thing in the AI space right now, which is model and the data layer. And we're the first guys to crack this attribution as well. And we're quite proud of that. It's been a work over the last 2 years. And we've already started to see the signs of it, right? We have like projects which are building on us. We have more than 20 plus projects, and we have close to about 7 to 8 enterprises that are using our protocol and building on us and building to make sure that their models are much more transparent. Enterprises like Walmart, Trust Wallet, and many more as well. So I think that's a very strong answer to why we are unique and what we are building this matters. And we will continue to build more and more unique use cases in the AI space. Starting now with model and data, it will expand to other stuff as it grows as well.
네, 오픈레저는 AI에서 가장 중요한 데이터와 모델 투명성 문제를 최초로 해결한 블록체인으로 이 속성 추적을 통해 데이터 기여자에게 보상을 주고요. 이 기업에는 신뢰할 수 있는 AI를 제공한다는 점이 가장 큰 차별점입니다. 오픈레저 공동 창업자 람 쿠마르와 인터뷰해봤습니다. 오늘 말씀 고맙습니다. Thank you, Ram. 네, 오픈AI가 창작자 지원 프로그램인 크리에이티브 랩의 글로벌 출발지로 대한민국의 서울을 택한 것처럼 오픈레저도 AI 생태계에 있어 한국의 중요성을 강조해 주었습니다. 더 투명하고 공정한 AI의 세상을 꿈꾸며 크립토인사이트 오늘 마치고자 합니다. 네, 저희 프로그램은 정보 제공을 목적으로 제작됐고요. 투자에 대한 판단과 책임은 언제나 투자자 여러분의 몫이라는 점 고지해 드리겠습니다. 네, 저희는 다음 주 금요일 10시 반에 더 심도 있는 인사이트와 함께 찾아뵙도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 저희 방송 끝까지 시청해주신 여러분 고맙습니다.